Welcome back to the Win with Dice podcast, a podcast featuring members of the Win with Dice team. I'm Calvin, and I'm joined here by Ramon.
Hey guys, your first time listening to the Win with Dice podcast. This is a podcast all about tabletop RPGs. Calvin and I like to take a casual approach to the hobby, so we like to talk about the games that we run, the games that we play, and the cool, wonderful people we get to experience the hobby with. If this is your first introduction to tabletop RPGs, what are you doing? Go find yourself a group of friends and a table and go roll some dice and have fun. But if you are a player at someone's table, maybe it's your turn to GM for your group.
So this week we're going to be continuing with our looks at the Lancer RPG and specifically the NPC classes of the Lancer RPG. We didn't expect so much flim-flam when we started doing this, so this might be like a 5-parter at this point. But we're going to get into the Lancer RPG core NPC classes and maybe talk about times we've used them in the past or ideas they might give us for the sorts of encounters they might be fun in. But before we get into all that stuff, we have to get to the most important part of the show, the Win with Dice Weekly GM Tip of the Week.
Yes, the Win with Dice Weekly GM Tip of the Week, brought to you by us, I guess? Yeah. The both of us. We were just kind of spitballing before the podcast started, but my friend recently sent me a table, like one of those cool, awesome tabletop RPG tables where like the center comes out, you add a bunch of cup holders and do all this stuff and get the fancy miniatures and things like that. And then my response, yeah, I know, my response to him was like, that thing is useless. You just need a dry erase board and a couple of dice.
Okay. I thought you meant this was a table you now had, because I was like, I'm on my way to your house right now.
This is the problem. No, well, specifically, it's like, I was thinking like, man, you don't need all this stuff to play any of those games, any of the games we talk about, right? Like, you don't need like a fancy table. You don't need fancy miniatures. I've had lots of desperate, dramatic struggles and victories with just some dry erase and bottle caps and pennies. Like it's to me, it's like all that stuff is all superficial, and really, it's the time you spend with your friends is like the good part. Because I mean, you never talk about like, oh yeah, my cool mini that I made, and I made this map, and then. But you talk about the stuff your character does, and that's the thing that really sticks with you. I do totally get, like, you know, spend your money wherever you want to and support. Obviously, these people make a really good product, and all the cool artists and media designers, all that stuff, like, definitely do it. But I feel like a lot of times when I speak to people who are, like, interested in the game or interested in the hobby, they're like, oh, but I got to get all this stuff. And it's like, you don't need all this stuff. You just need some friends and some dice and some paper and some pens, and then you're good to go. Like, that's it, man.
Yeah, that's pretty much how we started, really. Like, that was kind of the basis of my tabletop experience, and, like, thinking back on it, that was a lot of what I was doing at first. Like, my first game that I ran, like, it wasn't on a virtual map or anything. It was on a map that I drew on a piece of grid paper, and I had, like, Lego pieces to denote, like, different characters and stuff. I think because the paper I had wasn't like the right grid size, so I had to use Lego pieces instead of like actual bases and things like that.
Yeah.
And even from there, like when I did end up trying to use a digital map, I didn't know how Roll20 worked, so I just kind of like scuffed together something in a drawing program. But yeah, I think it's not it's not how good the stuff looks, how good the physical stuff looks, or even the digital stuff. Because I know, like, I had mentioned just before the show, like, I've had some times where I just drew in the map, like one fight in a cavern that sort of just happened unexpectedly. I kind of just had to draw in the map and then let the battle continue from there. Yeah, it's not the appearance of the things that matters. It's, like, what's happening in the story, what you're doing with your friends.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, obviously, there's tons of stuff. Like, again, like, I'm not bashing that if you have all this stuff, like,
Yeah.
whatever, right? But like, it shouldn't be a barrier for you to like start playing these games and start enjoying yourself with your friends. You know what I mean? Like, keep it simple, keep it straight. Like, again, all you need is you don't even need character sheets. You just need to print off some stuff and roll some dice. The dice is the important part. That would be hard to figure out. We all got smartphones now, so you know you could just download a free dice app and it'll be the exact same thing.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It shouldn't be like where you start from, you know, like the fancy buildings and models and stuff. That shouldn't be where you start from, unless that's a specific thing that you like to do or a specific hobby that you have. It's just like, it's not a requirement. Like, you don't need that at first. As time goes on, you're probably going to end up there. You'll probably end up with that big fancy table that I hope Ramon gets. But yeah, you don't need that right away.
Yeah. Well, there. Yeah. That's kind of the basis of the tip of the week. Like, just start small. Start with bottle caps and dry erase stuff, and do it on the cheap, because you don't even know if you like it. Like, why spend all this money on something you don't like, right? But you probably will if you're interested. Like, honestly, like, I haven't seen people, or at least like they haven't found the right game yet. But I think obviously this hobby is for everybody, but you just gotta find the right system for you and the right people.
Exactly.
So go, folks. There's your tip of the week. Just start small and paper and pens it till you can afford the cool stuff if you want.
Okay, so let's get into this week's episode. Again, we're just taking a look at some Lancer RPG core NPCs. If you have the Lancer core rulebook, and we'll have a link below as to where you can get it, you can follow along as well. Or you can follow along on CompCon, or on Foundry, I guess, or wherever you would like to do so. Or just make a really cool token on Retrograde Minis, because that's fun too. But yeah, let's get into this. So when we last left off, we finished off with the Hornet. So now we're getting into something very different, really. Similar size, but very different function, with the Mirage.
Yeah, the Mirage. I actually think this thing is really scary. Like, oh man, this thing is a menace. I was actually playing in a game the other day, and there was a Mirage, I guess veteran, I think it was, but like either like it was just like the worst. It was the worst. The Mirage, it's a cool mech. It's a support class NPC. It's fairly average. I guess it has 10 HP. I'm not sure. I think 10 HP is average. Evasion's 10. That's average. E-defense is 12. That's average. Sensor range is 15. So it's a pretty long sensor range, because this is kind of like a hacker man. It could be size 1 or size half. Bad at hull because it's a cool. Well, it's like the dork mech, but it's got cool spells or tech attacks like warp sensors. You make a tech attack with the sensor range. They take 2 heat, and all attacks they make at the end of their turn, they treat the target as having soft cover. So that's like really good and gross. Ugh, so gross.
Yeah, so basically it's like soft cover is like 1 difficulty, right?
Yeah.
And they take
which
heat.
Is like,
ooh, it is, that does sound pretty rough.
It's bad because, like, I mean, it's cool because you can use it to, like, let's say you have something charging up the field, and then it's like has low evasion. Then you can like put this on it, and then all of a sudden, like, any attacks, or like anything that's low, it's just like having soft cover is good, because you're able to get that, lower the accuracy, and force people to like use up their resources to maybe like get more accuracy or just whatever. But it's a nice utility tech attack.
You know what I'm kind of thinking? Because I'm looking at that sensor range, and I feel like this would be a good counter for some of the more like sniper-leaning frames, like a couple of the, well, not the frames specifically, but like their weapons and everything too. Like, I like to lean on the Death's Head. That's sort of the one that I go to when I'm thinking of a sniper, and that is one of the ones that I made for my like pre-gen list with my like dozen pre-gens on it. And it can, with its certain protocols and weapons and abilities, whatever combination you make, you can usually end up with decently high accuracy on a roll. So this thing with long sensor range, being able to come in and just make things a bit more difficult for you, at least by 1 step, I think is going to be a really good counter if you are running a game and you have someone in the party who is really good at those long range shots and usually stays back. But they might be a bit more fragile. They might not have a very high heat capacity, but you want to make it a bit more difficult for them specifically.
I was gonna say it's like it's attack in general, right? So including like the people who are doing tech attacks and stuff like that. So it's like,
True.
You can really hamper somebody. Although I'm pretty sure tech attacks get messed up by soft cover. I don't recall, but if they aren't, well then, forget what I said. But the worst part about that, Calvin, is that it has data veil, which means that it's just invisible. But then for a quick action, you can just transfer the invisibility to somebody else, which honestly is the worst part about that. Like, oh my god. Like, somebody, I forget which thing that they did this on, but I think it was like an assassin. So it was like, okay, so it was the assassin plus a Mirage. They like helped, the Mirage was helping the assassin out by using data veil. First, the assassin was like, he had like a bunch of difficulties. Like the person who he targeted as like the mark had a bunch of difficulties to attack them, and on top of that, they were invisible. So then they had the 50% chance to miss, and it was like this dude was in this 1v1 for his life, because like he like was so far away, and we had to do this objective, and it was just like so bad. So yeah, there's like a pretty cool combination right there.
Dang.
Just the assassin and a Mirage, and then this dude who's trying to get away from this thing. Like it was bad. It was super bad. Luckily, the assassin was rolling pretty shitty a couple of times and didn't body him, or else we probably would have just had like a blown up mech.
Yeah, nothing can counter bad rolls, no matter what abilities you put on something. If the dice don't want it, then it's not gonna happen.
Yeah, and okay, so then it also has glitch scanners where it's like you can teleport up to 2 allies within your sensor range, moving them 5 spaces in any direction, revealing their true location in quotation marks. I love it. It's like true. Like, this ignore engagements and doesn't provoke reactions. And you get the blip reaction, which is like a hostile character takes an action in line of sight. The Mirage may teleport 1 ally within 5 sensor ranges up to any directions, which is like really wild. Because there was another thing on the map with this freaking Mirage, which was a Demolisher, which we talked about. This Demolisher only moves 2 spaces, but basically the Mirage was able to just slingshot the Demolisher like 10 spaces up the map, and like was only held back because of specifically me. Like it was like it was so bad, and it works because it also works as well, because it doesn't matter if the person can move at all, it just teleports them, right? So then it's like, I made the Demolisher prone, but it didn't matter. The dude was just like, oh, actually he's over here. It's true location.
You somehow made it prone from somewhere else.
Like this thing's crazy. Like it was like putting it like on top of buildings and stuff. Like it was wild. Like thank God like I was able to kind of keep it away for so long, because man, having a Demolisher like in our backlines, it would have been gross.
Yeah, and this thing, like, with reality flicker, which I definitely almost misread, it can just teleport whenever it moves, which is a very cool movement style, and I like how it just spreads that teleport to other people, because, yeah, I guess the reality flicker is more like, I'm actually over here, and my allies are actually over here. Exactly,
right. If you ever get a chance to run Solstice Reign, there's a map that uses a Mirage, and it's pretty good. Like the map is like so jacked up that literally while we were like playing the map, we were like cursing L. I was like, damn, LG made a really good map. Like I can't get it in line of sight to anything.
No.
So yeah, definitely recommend using Mirage. Actually, it would be pretty cool to use a Mirage like as a centerpiece, I would say, kind of that captain person calling out those shots and stuff like that. But like you could also say it would be very funny to have a Mirage grunt, like a bunch of Mirage grunts. It would be horrible, man. Look at the stuff you could do.
I'm kind of picturing like I mean I guess this is more of a narrative thing, but I'm just picturing like a souped up Mirage that creates just a completely illusory battlefield where you think you're fighting like several enemies, but it's just this one Mirage that's messing with your tech systems. You have to overcome it somehow. Though again, that's probably more of a narrative combat sort of thing than an actual. I mean, they could probably be set up somehow.
Well, I mean, you could do like manifest false idols, which gives you it's a full tech action, but it gives you like a construct that like takes up a space. Anytime someone like interacts with it, they have to like take 2 heat or become jammed and stuff like that. And also you can at any point during the Mirage's turn, they can teleport an ally character within line of sight to a location of the data construct as a quick action, and the construct disappears. I mean, like, it's pretty cool. I mean, I think that you could put actual enemies on the map and then just say like which one is real, and you have to like interact with it and put like a thing where it's like, oh, figure it out, is this real or is this not, right?
Yeah.
That kind of fun.
If you're wrong, you might get jammed. If you're right, then there's an enemy right in front of you about to smack you down.
Yeah, actually, I think it would be kind of cool. Now that I think about it, someone should, not me, because I don't have enough time and there's too many the game design stuff I'm working on. But someone should just like make like abilities cool like special scenarios where like this is like a solo enemy, but a specific scenario where the solo enemy like works better, like give some sort of cool flavor thing, like how you said, like, oh, actually if this you're fighting like a really souped up Mirage, then like the whole encounter is like figuring out which one's real, right? And like make some rules for that. That would be kind of a cool encounter.
Yeah, I'm basically picturing Mysterio as a mech.
Oh yeah, Mysterio basically is Mysterio the mech. But yeah, there's like a lot. There's a lot of stuff where it's like you teleport an ally, you make stuff immune. It's a lot of support. So yeah. Oh, warp targeting is pretty funny. All allies within range 5 benefit from soft cover. Yeah.
Range 50.
Which is like range 50. Sorry.
Oh yeah.
If the Mirage takes damage, the effect ends until the start of his next turn, which is like pretty wild. I want to do like a cool desert map where like nobody gets cover except for all of the enemies, and it's just like a Mirage, just like.
Ooh.
That would be crazy good.
That would be the perfect setting for this combat.
Yeah, just this big open field where it's like you got to figure it out if it's real or not, and it could just be like a Mirage in the desert. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, like I'm kind of picturing in the campaign, the PCs have to cross this desert to reach some goal, and as they're doing so, they come across. I mean, I just realized I'm ripping this off from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. But...
Listen, JoJo's has done everything at this point, so everything is obviously a JoJo's reference. Like...
As I was saying it, I was like, wait.
All right. Well, let's I don't know, JoJo reference our way out of here. Speaking of menace, there's a good one.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we're going to the next one, the operator.
All right.
The operator is an artillery. It's super duper dangerous and deadly, and I'm pretty sure this is the one that teleports and explodes.
Yeah, this one has the very interesting self-erasure ability, where if the mech is destroyed, it immediately self-immolates, which means all characters adjacent have to make an agility save to avoid taking damage, and they take half damage on a successful save. And then the mech itself is removed from the battlefield. Instead of being left as a wreck that people might be able to use for cover, it's just completely annihilated.
Which I think is wild to me. It just kind of it just self-destructs. Stats wise, it's like actually really average, except for it has like a slightly higher heat cap than everybody else. 8 instead of like the standard 6, which makes sense because it's a mech that has a big powerful energy rifle that does energy rifle things, so that would make sense that they have a better heat capacity. It does have the infamous Raptor plasma rifle, range 20, which is huge. It also, this thing is crazy. It's range 20. It has +2 attack bonus and +2 accuracy. Like that's so much. Like that's so much plus. At tier 1, that's so wild. Definitely need to hide from this thing.
Could be the thing though is like it teleports as well, so this thing can just be bouncing around the battlefield. Oh, you can have like a really cool sniper fight with this though.
Oh man,
I don't know why I'm focusing on
Mirage. Yeah, slap this up with the Mirage, sit him in the desert. Oh man, he's just glass and stuff. Like, oh, that's so good. That's so good. Just have everybody teleport. And step, it has step, which you can teleport for free to in range 50, which is like the entire map. It is recharge 5, but like you can get out of dodge, or just like if you have low HP, just teleport yourself into the PCs and then just like you blow up. That would be pretty funny. Self erasure again, it blows up. It does 4 energy damage. It has a bunch of cool stuff, like fade generator, where it's like you become invisible till the start of your next turn, unless you take damage. And honestly, I usually stop reading. Like I've when I use an operator, I just like use it for like the silliness of this damn rifle and the teleport. Like,
I think the self erasure thing is just a really interesting like trait there, because I feel like there's like a lot of like why would someone willingly pilot a mech that does this, and what sort of motives do they have? Is this just like a really dedicated mercenary, or is there something more going on here?
Yeah, it also has like Fortress, which gives it like +3 accuracy on system saves, and tech attacks against them receive +3 difficulty, which is like, what? Like it's just like, no, thank you. You don't. You don't need to be here. Skirmisher too. Skirmisher is cool because once per turn, at any point during the operator's turn, they may boost for free, which is super cool. And it has these Nova missiles, which is like a silly seeker blast one. I don't know why it's silly, but like it's kind of silly in comparison to the big plasma rifle. It's just like a little bit of peppering involved. It is seeking, so it doesn't need line of sight. And yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's got a decent range too, so I can see that being useful for something that should probably be like moving as much as possible. That feels like a lot of what its options are there for, like the teleporting abilities at base, and then like the invisibility you can add as an optional system.
Yeah.
Also, looking at Fortress, this thing's already pretty decent at like E defense, so I don't know. The operator really does not want your spam emails.
Yeah, really. And like, you can definitely make this a centerpiece, dude, or you can make it a bunch of grunts. I think the funniest part is a bunch of grunt operator. Oh, everyone would hate you.
Can you imagine how dedicated a single mech pilot has to be in a grunt operator?
I know, right? Well,
like you do more damage when you explode than HP that you have.
I know, that's so good, right? Then you just send them in. Yeah, which is cool because, like, you know, a lot of times your artillery stuff, it's like this thing has the ability to like teleport, so it can get away. It requires a lot, and even if you are close up to it, it's like if you're too close, you're gonna take some damage when you finally take this thing out. So yeah, no, it's operator super cool.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to the Priest. The Priest, another support mech. The Priest is good at basically supporting. Yeah, it's a good support mech. It's like half. It could be half size. It's got pretty overall average stats, except for its heat capacity, which is 10, which now I'm realizing is ludicrous. That's so high. Comes with the base abilities Abjure, which the Priest makes a tech attack against a target within sensor range, and a success they take 2 heat each time they attack until the end of their next turn, which I think is really cool because it gives like the player the option to still try and risk it, right? Like if they don't have any heat, then you know maybe they can take a couple of attacks and leave them vulnerable. So like, you know, they can't keep doing it, but if they keep, but like I like that it doesn't remove the option or like even the ability of them to hit, but then it kind of like screws them over later in the encounter.
Yeah, as they build up more heat.
Yeah. It also has a hardened target where it's got like accuracy and system stuff. Accuracy and system saves and tech attacks get difficulty. It's basically just like Fortress Light.
True.
Investiture. Here's the cool one, I think. This is the cool one. Oh no, that's not the cool one. As long as they remain linked to within range 5 to a ally, they get +1 accuracy in all attacks, and can use the priest's systems instead of their own. If their character becomes jammed, impaired, or stunned, the other character also receives the same condition until the link is disabled. The link is disabled. These characters is destroyed. If you know one of them is destroyed or moves more than 5 way. The priest can only link itself one at a time. So this is kind of like the goblin like link cable ability where you're able to enhance your ally. And dispersion shield, this is the one where you know you set a bunch of miniature drones protecting like your ally. They gain resistance to damage and heat from the next D3 attacks, which I think is pretty cool because honestly, like I never thought dispersion shield was that cool until it was used against me, and then I was like, this is dumb. Like.
Yeah, I briefly had a priest that I intended to use in a combat. I had it on a ship. Actually, I took the priest. I put the ship template on it. I intended for the ship to be like hovering just over the battlefield, providing like cover. It had a cool moment where it zoomed in and it dropped off the mech it was supporting. And then it immediately got pulled down into the mech it dropped off. So I didn't get to use any of this stuff.
Yeah. I also did I think one match I was playing. Well, I always play Duke one match. One game I was playing a Duke, and I remember first turn I boosted over this really big rocky area. Like it was a big chunk of the map, and I went straight into the enemy lines, and I straight just critted and destroyed the priest in one shot. And it was like, oh yeah, that dude's the nerd. Get him. Like, oh man.
Yeah, if you see someone in the back supporting their allies, that's the person you go for first.
Exactly, right? You gotta get the healer down. But yeah, no, this is actually a really good mech for supporting your allies. I know that we've got a lot of support mechs, but the priest is definitely good at assisting one person. But actually, the coolest part, if you have a bunch of grunt priests, right, you can all just link up systems, right, onto one sniper, and then this dude has +1 accuracy for every one, and then all of a sudden, oh no, like... It says that the priest can only be linked to one character at a time, but that character can't be linked to multiple priests.
Yeah, there's no rule against linking to multiple priests. There's no rule that says a dog can't link to multiple priests.
Exactly, right? You just put that onto... I mean, like, there's tons of stuff that has, like, lower accuracy, but, like, having a priest connected to, like, a bombard or something where it's, like, they get that inherent difficulty, I think. Or, like, even just, like, a breacher that's able to, like, have the dual shotguns, but then the dual shotguns have, like, two difficulty or something like that. And then it's, like, you put the couple priests around him, and then all of a sudden this dude is, like, hitting really hard. Has a bunch of other stuff. Like greater investiture, when you invest that target, becomes the priest becomes immobilized, but they get resistance to all damages. Dispersion shield also grants overshields 5, which is bonkers. That's too much. I'm glad I killed that thing immediately. That's horrible. Sanctuary, the priest now within sensor range before attacking the target, the character must pass a system save. On a failure, that target cannot be targeted again by the attacker until the start of that character's next turn, which is pretty cool.
Isn't that just like the sanctuary spell?
Probably. I don't remember. But yeah. Tom, what are you doing, man? You're just stealing stuff. I'm kidding. It's called a priest, so that's fine. Sorry, it didn't have like heal. You know what I mean? It's got it gets fortress.
It does have its own fortress, yes.
It does have its own fortress. Although, yeah, it does say like hardened target gives you that much. And then it has a reaction, fractal assault. It's an investiture reaction, and then the attacker must make a system save. And if it fails, they are stunned. That's horrible. Oh my god, get it out of here.
Yeah, this thing is a great support. I can see it being very useful, just like if you get a couple of these optional systems in there, I can see it being very useful, like backing up a singular like DPS character that might be in a vulnerable position.
Oh yeah, dude, like it would be. This thing is gross. I hate it. I hate it so much. I'm glad I killed it. All right. Speaking of peas, the next one. Oh no! Speaking of pyres, let's go to the Pyro. Yeah, there we go.
You got it, man.
I did it. Saved it right at the end. It's the Pyro. It's your friendly neighborhood fireman, except that he doesn't put out fires. He puts out fires. If you know what I mean, like.
Yeah, it's not firefighter. It's fire space fighter.
Yeah, it's fire space fighter. So yeah, it's a defender. It's big and. Is it big? No, it's not. It's size 1. Sorry, it's heavily armored. That's the word I was looking for. So it's durable. It's got decent HP, but it has 3 armor. It has average, but a little bit below average E defense and evade. It's really slow. It's got 2 speed, 8 sensor range, but its heat capacity, oh boy, it's 12. That's a lot of heat.
Yeah, I mean.
Which it needs, because its flamethrower, it gets self-heat. It gives you 4 heat, but this weapon doubles the burn to characters that already have burn, and the damage is 3 burn. So, and it's cone 5. Oh god, this thing is horrible. I hate it so much.
Yeah, right?
Dude, this thing is awful. Ugh.
The first boss that I had in a Lancer game, well, mini boss, I guess I should say, was a Pyro. This was the one that I put like at the opposite side of that football field, basically. So he was moving very slowly, and just every turn, just like setting off his flamethrower intimidatingly because I was too far to do anything else. But yeah, I really like the Pyro as like a centerpiece, because I I used it another time after that. I don't know. It's just a very big flashy. It's a big flashy guy with a flamethrower. I think it makes for it really gets people's attention when you put it out there.
I know, right? Like I just keep thinking like Mad Max style, like right? You know, a big flamethrower. It's insulated. Obviously, it's immune to burn. It's got fire break shield, so at the end of the Pyro's turn, create a line for energy shield that's 4 spaces high and at least 1 space adjacent to the Pyro. It doesn't block line of sight, but it does provide soft cover. So, you know, and when attacks are made against characters benefiting from this cover, it misses on a 4+ on a d6, which basically it gives you pseudo invisibility.
Mhm.
And it also does not stack with invisibility explicitly.
Yeah.
It lasts until the Pyro's next turn, and if the Pyro moves for anything or is stunned, then it goes away. This is awesome because, yeah, it's a really cool defensive ability. It has like this cool flamethrower gout thing that it pulls up, so it basically just never letting go of the trigger. I don't know, like.
I also like the explosive vent because this thing builds up heat on itself whenever it uses the flamethrower. And with this ability, when it clears heat, it's basically just doing a fire burst around it, so people have to make a save to avoid taking heat damage as well, or even being knocked prone.
Yeah, which is really good because I mean, like if you're in like a melee kerfuffle, right? And you're just like, get off me, just like knock that dude prone, which is pretty cool. It's got for optional stuff. It's got unshielded reactor, so you know anybody adjacent to the Pyro for the first time take 2 heat. Siege armor gains resistance to all damage, which is like pretty big if you're like also having 3 armor. Like that's wild. Napalm bomb, which is range 5. It's a blast. It's arcing. It's loading though, but it does 3 burn and 2 heat. That's pretty cool. And super hot reaction. The Pyro takes damage from a melee attack, gains resistance to all attack, and the attacker passes an engineering check, or you know they take 2 burn. And then explosive jets. Enemies in the burst 2 succeed a hull save or be knocked outside of the area because the Pyro went boom. And then the Pyro flies 5 spaces in any direction. You should have gave him this. This would have sped his ass up. That would be pretty funny.
I mean, in retrospect, yes.
Yeah, I like the idea that like you just are so hot and like you're just funnel your jets downwards and they just fly off as you're trying to
Just kangaroo hop across the battlefield.
Exactly, right? Like that's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, again, I had a lot of fun playing the Pyro. There was a Tokugawa on the field that basically became the rival for as long as that combat lasted.
Yeah, I know. I think they were both. I think you know the Tokugawa was getting heated up, and they're like, "Yeah, heat me up. Watch this." Like,
yeah, set me on fire. Do it. You won't.
Yeah. Yeah. I use the Pyro with the the hallway map. I'll call it like the maze one where you had that time. The heist. That's what we call it. The heist during the one of the streamed games. Where you guys are going through like the Blue Suns, the Blue Horizon. I forget what I call them. The Blue Dude space.
I think it was Blue
where
Horizon.
the Pyro. Yeah, where the Pyro. I mean, it was cool because the whole point that was that the players had to get from one side of a maze to another. And I didn't have to move that far, and they had to deal with this thing, which I think they dealt with handily. Like I don't remember it being that big of a deal. So
I remember those fire break shields being pretty inconvenient because we were in sort of a tighter space.
Yeah.
So it was like a bit more difficult to work around.
Oh man, dude, I remember using the Pyro, an Aegis, I forget what it's called, but it's the healer one, as well as I think somebody else, but I don't remember what other mech I chose for them to be in that campaign, or like the support, I think it's called. That one's kind of like the actual like support mech that can heal you and stuff, but like it was all a bunch of big chunky ass dudes who just didn't care what you were doing. It was like, don't come over here. get out of the way, or like I'm gonna be in the way, you have to move me. And that was really effective at slowing the players down.
Cool.
All right. Moving on to the next one. Actually, this one's probably one of my actual favorite ones to use. The Rainmaker. Missiles on missiles on missiles. You want missiles? This is the dude. It's on average, all its stats are pretty good. Its sensor's pretty long with 15. Heat capacity's above average with 8. It's got 1 armor, which I always forget it does. But yeah, again, the rest of the stats are pretty middling. But its claim to fame is the missile pod, because this weapon can attack 1 to 3 characters at a time. It does a reliable damage and 1 knockback, and it's arcing. And guess what the range is? It's 20, baby. Like,
Yeah.
it's good. I like this thing a lot. I love the fact that it's 20 range. I don't really have to think about it. You just pop a couple down, and you're just like, well, you gotta fight me. Like,
Are you on the map? There you go. You get a missile. Yeah, this is the one that I actually like to make into a grunt.
Yeah, for sure. I think this is a really fun grunty mech where you can just have a bunch of them, and they're really bad, but the players don't know, and then they finally get to them, and then they're like, oh, it's a grunt.
But it's so perfect because like it's so far away and it's so dangerous to multiple targets, especially with like the other rockets and stuff that it has. But yeah, I just like it as this thing that, you know, players are going to be focusing up on something that's moving close to them, or the big pyro you put in front of them. But every now and then, hey, don't forget me. I have missiles back here, and you're getting some.
I know, right? And like, I like javelin rockets with a little bit of area denial. You know, you put up a bunch of spots on the map, and if an enemy passes through it, you know, they get hit with a rocket, take 5 kinetic damage, which you could set up if you set it up and then hit them in with the missile pod, right? Like that's a pretty silly 1-2 combo, or like have like another mech knock them into it or something like that. Huntsman is also kind of silly. If you consume a lock on with the Rainmaker's attack, they get smart, seeking, and AP, which is pretty bad for anybody.
Yeah, because it's doing what, like 4 damage at base, and you just give that armor piercing as well.
I mean, that'll rack up, right? Like that's 4 damage is significant. I mean, I think when players get more leveled or they dump a bunch of stuff into hull, it's not that big of a deal. But the fact that it goes for AP, like that's a lot. And seeking, so you know you don't even need to see you to get licks. Like it's pretty good. Other than that, it's got Hades missiles, which is just like a cone of missiles. Well, it's like in a range 20, it like bursts into a cone of missiles, and you know, it does 4 energy damage and 2 heat if they pass an agility saves. If there isn't, it doesn't require line of sight. It just happens. Hound missiles I love. Actually, I did make now that I'm thinking about it, I made a Rainmaker a submarine during one of the games. I was like, I gave it the vehicle profile, and then I was like, yeah, that totally makes sense for a submarine. They had like, I love these Hound missiles because I had a couple of submarines. They all launched these Hound missiles, and it was like, now they're flying across the map. What are you going to do, Goblin? Like, they're coming to get you. So yeah, the Hound missiles, it's like a drone. You pick a target within range 20. At the start of the turn, the Hound missile flies towards them 3. 6 if the target has a lock on, and then moves directly toward them, maneuvers around covers and stuff like that. And then if it would collide with a character or reach its target, it creates a burst 1 explosion, and they take 16 energy damage, half on an agility save, which is bonkers. It is recharge 6+, which is obviously not likely, but again, you had a couple of these on the field, and they have a bunch of them flying towards 16 energy damage. That's a lot of damage. Like,
yeah, like it's basically like you have the chance to shoot it down before it reaches you, but if you don't, I mean, that 16, and that's just at tier 1, that 16 is going to be punishing.
yeah, dude. And like also endless rain, where like javelin rockets are not 3 to get 6, you get a couple of them. That's 12 spaces on the map that people they can't go to. Volley, pick a character with line of sight. They take 4, and they just take 4 explosive damage unless they pass an agility save. Just like you just take it. And Atlas missiles, the Rainmaker chooses space of ground within line of sight and range 30. It's obvious all characters. The Rainmaker launches a missile. At the end of the next round, a blast 2 explosion happens, and then takes 16 explosive damage, half if they pass. So again, you just had a couple of these on the map, and they just like put all this stuff on the thing. You're just playing bullet hell, the TTRPG at that point, right? Like, it's so good. I love it so much.
Yeah. Just this is the monarch of NPCs. This is the missiles missiles is this entire thing's personality.
I know. I should have actually used the Atlas missile more, I think, with the submarines. That would have made more sense, I think. Instead of the Hound.
That map also had like a pretty open space, if I recall correctly. Like, I can see the Atlas missiles being useful if you're a bit more confined. If you have somewhere that you need to go through, or like some specific area, like something like that where you know the enemies are going to be. Or the players, I should say. I mean, enemies is relative. Yeah, because it's at the end of the round as well.
Yeah, but you guys are confined to the islands, I think, specifically. That was the issue, is like, because you guys didn't have good, like, I think I made it to be like difficult terrain or something like that. If you guys tried to like go through the map without being on land, because it was just like you guys are like stuck at a bunch of islands, and it was like, and you were also trying to defend your ship at the same time. You guys are playing like a little bit of Battleship. So it was just kind of like, I should have put the Atlas missile on it and just put it onto the ship, and they'd be like, you have to figure it out, dude. Like, that would have been pretty good.
I don't know.
Next time, I'll make that harder.
Yeah, and also, like, I feel, I was going to say, with the Hound missile, it doesn't say, but I would probably have it that, like, if you shoot down the Hound missile, the explosion sets off from wherever it was at that point in time.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. That would be pretty cool to do. So, yeah.
Because that just adds, like, another layer of, like you can maybe use it against the enemy. As a player, you can use it against the enemy NPCs.
Or GM, yeah. Or, like, yeah, as the player, I guess the GM. Yeah, you're right. Whatever you said was the right way. You know what I'm saying.
You know what I mean.
All right, the next one, the Ronin, the dude with the sword. Every single coolest, edgiest person in the room is this guy, the Ronin. Yeah, it's a dude with a sword. It's got high HP. It is a striker, so it's a up close and personal dude. 10 sensor range, 7 heat cap, which is pretty good. Hull agility is up, speed is decent at 5, but evasion and safe target is like 10, and the defense is a little bit lower. So yeah, the carbon fiber sword, it is a sword. It does 6 kinetic damage, which is very freaking high. It's got threat 2, it's accurate. On critical hits, it deals 1d6 damage, and you know, you can make multiple attacks as the tiers go up. But it is like the Ronin's only weapon, which I find really hilarious when you have like a Ronin and you didn't, and like it doesn't have another weapon, so then you roll like the destroyed thing, and then it's like, oh no, you have to destroy a weapon, and then the Ronin's weapon sword, the only sword it has, gets destroyed, and then you're like, well, I guess it doesn't do anything anymore. Like, caught in that awkward situation. Anyway, speaking of cool samurai shit, it gets rebound, which is a reaction. It takes damage from a ranged attack, because obviously you're going to shoot this thing unless you're going to do that cool samurai duel. On a 4+ on a d6, you gain resistance to the damage, and the attacker must repeat the attack against themselves. Ooh, super cool.
Yeah, you basically just like flick the projectile or whatever back on the person who fired it.
Yeah, which is wild. Like, that's like so cool. It's too cool. Once per round, it's a reaction. But yeah, it's a dude with a sword. It's really good at swinging the sword. If you running this thing at base, you better start boosting. Right? It's basically like a time limit until you get your ass handed to you by this thing. So
yeah, I did make one of these for a game, but I didn't end up using it. So I have a whole combat encounter I didn't end up using, so that I will probably get to throw at someone else later. But yeah, I think the Ronin I think it's really cool. I would love to give it another weapon, just out of precaution. Even if I just like yoink something from somewhere else, like just yoink like the assault rifle or something, and put it on there. But yeah, I think, I don't know what it is, but just instinctually as I'm looking at this one, it strikes me as the sort of thing that the pilot kind of feels to me like someone who thinks they're really cool.
Yeah.
And maybe they aren't, but they are certainly dangerous.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think that like being a centerpiece character, the Ronin is a really cool one. But also having like a bunch of Ronins as grunts just charging at you, like, oh my god, dude! Like, that sounds it's so scary. They do like 6 damage, and they're probably gonna hit you. Like,
yeah, that's your ninja fight. That's your ninja ambush. A bunch of guys in swords show up.
I know, right? Like that's really wild. And if I remember correctly, if something gets like resistance as a grunt, it counts as 0. Like they just miss. So like on a 4+ with rebound with a bunch of grunts, if it does work that way, or at least that's the way I would play it, that would be sick. Like, oh my god, dude, my players would kill me. But yeah, it has cool stuff. So going on to its optional abilities, that's charge slash. It's a full action, and they have to make an agility saves or take 6 kinetic damage as it does like the cool Iaido stance, and it just draw and it just like attacks all the characters adjacent to it, which is wild. Chaff launchers, which I think is actually the best one, where it's like anytime the Ronin boosts, which it probably will be, it gets soft cover until the start of its turn. Echo's Edge, characters damaged by the Ronin gets a Ronin's mark, which at the start of the Ronin's turn, the Ronin can clear all Ronin marks as a free action, automatically dealing 6 AP kinetic damage to all characters that have a Ronin mark.
So
Which
like,
is, it does the cool thing where he just like he puts the sword away.
Yeah. You're just standing there for a moment. You don't even know you're already cut in half, and then
there's a ching. Like that's so sick. I think it's really cool too, because then it's like you can just stack up Ronin marks and a bunch of stuff, and then some dude's really close to going over their and structuring, right, their HP, and then just go ding, and like actually you're dead. Like, oh, that's so good. Then you got, not ultra instinct mode, but basically until the end of the next Ronin. So the first time each turn they are targeted by an attack, the Ronin may first use the carbon fiber sword to attack the character within range as a reaction, which is dope. And extended blade, your fiber sword becomes threat 3, and the first time each turn that a Ronin performs a critical hit with it, all characters within its threat take 2 kinetic damage, including the target, which is pretty cool. You can say it has like the big Busta sword. Like,
yeah, man, how cool must this pilot be?
I know, right? Like, definitely make your centerpiece. Definitely weeb out to the max. Call out names, the signature attacks and stuff. Like, this is the dude to do it. Like,
yeah, that is exactly what I wanted to do. That's why I was like, I gotta save this entire setup for another game, because that is exactly what I wanted to do with it.
Yeah, just weeb out with your cool samurai sword. And yeah, this is really good. All right, folks. Speaking about, I don't know how to transition this one. From a swordsman to a sorcerer. Yeah, there we go. The Scourer. It's not really a sorcerer, but it does the cool thermal lance. Okay, the Scourer is a striker, but it has 2 armor. It's actually pretty decently bulky. 8 heat cap, sensor range of 10 normal, speed of 4 pretty normal, evade and e-defense at 8, which is pretty normal. Everything's pretty normal, except that this has cool 2 armor because it's really bulky. It has the thermal lance, which is cool. It's range 8, 6 energy, does 4 to itself. It's a +1 accuracy, and it's a heavy ass cannon. But I think the real cool part about this is focus down. So when the scorer hits with the thermal lance, the target takes 5 burn if they've already have been successfully hit with the thermal lance in the previous round. So it's like if you could like focus fire against like one target, you can start racking up the stuff, because like if you got hit, that's 6 energy. You get hit again, that's another 6 energy plus 5 burn. That's a lot. That's a 17 HP, right? Like that's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah,
super
you have
cool.
one particular person that you're just really mad at.
It has a cooling module at the start of your turn. If the Scar clears all heat, if it hasn't moved, including involuntary movement since the previous turn. So if this thing is just going to be firing uninterrupted, like maybe you have a defender holding it down, or maybe you have like another support mech that's able to pin down whoever's trying to mess with the Scourer, then this thing's gonna start doing bad stuff to you.
I think it's interesting how the condition for that is that if it hasn't moved, like starting at the end of its turn to the start of the next one, so it seems more like it's mostly involuntary movement that it would have to worry about in that case, as opposed to like movement on its turn, where you would think that's where it needs to like not move on its turn to unlock a certain ability, but instead it needs to not be pushed around to unlock this ability.
Yeah, which it's in a cool space because like 8 range on its main gun is like kind of pushing around like the mid range to short range kind of deal. I think it's a because most mechs move like their movement is like 4 at base, so then it's
Mm.
like if you move 4, boost 4, you could be in melee, or you move 4, you're within range. I mean, it's shorter range than a assault rifle. You know what I mean? So it's it's interesting. Actually, doesn't care about assault rifles because even if they miss, they have 2 armor, so like whatever.
Yeah.
It for optional abilities, it's got supercharged. Characters that are affected by focus on are also shredded and slowed, which is gross. Emergency vents. The Scourer exceeds their hate cap or becomes stunned. They become invisible until the start of the next turn, which is super funny. I think it's a big
Unleash the
plume
steam.
of smoke. Yeah, unleash the steam. Yeah, it's got a second ability, a second attack called Pulse Laser. It's a line 10 for energy, and you can make a couple attacks more as your level goes up. And Flash Lens. All characters within Cone 5 drawn from the Scourer must pass a system save or become jammed until the start of the next turn, and then melt. Scorer makes a ranged attack against any object deployable drone within range 10, dealing 20 AP damage on its success,
So yeah,
which is pretty wild. Yeah.
you're basically big walking laser, pretty much. You can like flash your laser light to blind people. You can switch the type of laser you're doing, so you just do like a line of laser, or you just I don't know, you microwave a drone or a wall that's been really frustrating you. Oh, this would be cool if like it was something that a enemy NPC pilot was using in like their own heist or something. Like the enemies were doing a break-in and you had to stop them.
Oh yeah, and it uses like the melt to like blow up a hole in the wall, and then like you're just defending a series of walls or something. Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
kind of yeah, that would be pretty neat. Or like you're just hiding behind a solid piece of wall or cover, and the thing's just like, nope, it's gone. Like
Why is this wall so hot? Why did it suddenly turn
yeah.
red?
Why is it melting? Oh no. Yeah, it's super cool. I use this guy. Actually, I use them as turrets. They were supposed to be like meteor asteroid deflector turrets, so they would like vaporize a portion of like the incoming like asteroid or whatever, and then it would like stop it from smashing into the base. That kind of deal is for like that kind of defense. And then I said like the pirates that took over the place, like basically instead of pointing them to the sky, I like pointed them downwards. But I think I let the players, if they were able to do some cool narrative stuff, were able to operate these guns during combat. And I think one of the goblin players, they were like they decided to like use them as like a weapon instead of using their own weapons, because obviously the goblin doesn't really have too much in the way of that capacity.
Yeah, definitely these I can see being something that are like they can have this sort of function outside of combat. Again, even if it's just a narrative thing, they can possibly have that sort of function. And I think that gives you more options for how you want to use them as a game master, because like maybe I get like how you had them. Maybe they were some sort of useful tool, or maybe they were in construction or something like that, and they've just been taken by enemies and converted into
Yeah.
like a more powerful, like dangerous foe.
Yeah, like it could be mining lasers, it could be like a whole bunch of stuff, right? So it's like it's super cool. It doesn't always it could even like we'll get into it like whether or not you want to change something to a vehicle. This would be a cool vehicle idea, I think. All sorts of stuff. But yeah, I also use this too. Again, I realized this in the stream game as well, the Blue Horizons people. They also, that was the last one. It was the Scourer, because I had like 2 defenders, a support, and the Scourer. So like one dude was supposed to help with heat. The other 2 dudes were supposed to slow you guys down and provide defensive walls. And the Scourer is supposed to be the one that does a lot of damage. Like it was like a lot of burn and energy weapons and stuff like that. That was like their whole shtick. That's what they had stun in their name, because they had a bunch of energy stuff. Like
Oh, maybe it was Blue Sun then. Okay. It has been a minute.
it has been a minute. But yeah, you could go check out that stream game back in the way back days on the channel.
We really do have to like do something on like do some more Lancer stuff on. It was like 3 years ago that we did that.
Yeah.
Because like everything that we have is better now. Like we have better stream stuff now. We're both more familiar with the system now. I feel like we can, and if we get people on, like I think we could have. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Well, one day in the future, we shall stream Lancer again.
Yes. All right. Is there anything else you wanted to cover on the Scourer?
No, they're super cool. If there's a way for you to reduce this thing's heat, this thing would be pretty cool. But as far as that, I found that like obviously it's a 2-shot thing because you'll be right at your heat cap after 2 shots. So yeah, just keep that in mind because that is also a way to deal with them by tech attacking them a little bit, and all of a sudden when they shoot their gun, their system explodes. They become like exposed, and then like they're super dead at that point.
Yeah, if you prevent it from cooling down. But that's the thing that, like, you know, you as a player, you have to scan it and see how it works. Or just already know.
Yeah, which is fine, because that means you experienced it before, and you're a cool Lancer dude.
Alright, so I think that's going to be as far as we get in the list this week. Whenever we come back to this, maybe in a couple of weeks, we'll see how things turn out. Maybe we'll finally get through all the NPCs. I don't know. You know what we should do at the end of this is maybe just take all our conversations and then just like make some combat situations, see if we can figure some stuff out. Maybe we don't have to use all of them, but it would be cool to like just like build a combat scenario, but specifically with NPC classes that we haven't used or haven't used a lot.
Yeah, that would be kind of cool. Also, it would be kind of cool if we just like played a match with just like a bunch of NPCs against each other. That would be kind of funny. See what happens.
I wonder how that would turn out, because they're kind of statted for player combat. Like, they're kind of statted to be like, oh, I'm here and I'm big and I'm dangerous for a couple of rounds. And then, oh no, where'd all my HP go?
I was scary, but now I'm dead.
I wonder how NPC versus NPC would turn out.
It probably won't work. Because again, they're designed to like dish out damage and then immediately die in 2 turns. Like they're not designed to take each other out. They're probably just overtuned to take each other out, that kind of sense, right?
Yeah.
But
I'm still super curious about it though.
Yeah, same.
All right, maybe that'll happen in the future. If that's something you want to hear about, or if you are a Lancer GM and you have a particular favorite NPC class that you like to use, whether it's from the core book or from anything else, hit us up in the comments and let us know. All right. Well, thanks a ton, everybody out there, for hanging out and listening to this episode of the Win with Dice podcast. If you want to see more of our Lancer stuff, just check out the channel. We've got Lancer, we got Starfinder, we got Pathfinder, whole bunch of things. If you are into the Lancer RPG and you are on YouTube, then check out the description for a bunch of links to Lancer third-party writers and creators. A bunch of people who have made some awesome stuff, and we've had them on the show before. If you want to add more NPCs to your Lancer games, definitely go ahead and check out those books. And also, you know, like, you can mix and match NPCs that are in books that have, like, adventures and things. You can bring something from one book into another, if you have a particular character or idea that you want to use. Additionally, I want to shout out the Untold Stories Project channel, where I'm at on Wednesdays and every other Thursday now. They've got some streamed Mutants and Masterminds games going on. I think Baldur's Gate 3 is going to be a regular every other week thing on that channel as well. So definitely come by and check it out. As for the Dice channel, there are weekly gaming streams on Thursdays, Fridays, and Sundays. I did intend to finish Mass Effect Andromeda last week, but I was tired, so I didn't. But after Mass Effect Andromeda finishes, there'll be some changes to the stream schedule that I'll make sure to make some posts and stuff about it so people know when things end up. But I'm sort of looking at the moment, moving Baldur's Gate 3 to Thursdays. So every other week we switch between the Untold Stories Project campaign or the Win with Dice campaign for Baldur's Gate. Putting Alan Wake on Sundays so that we can play Alan Wake 2 every week. And then Friday, I originally wanted it to be Fallout, but I think maybe Titanfall 2, just to finally get a mech game on there to try to mix the podcast and gaming stream audiences and see how people like that. And if people like that, maybe some Armored Core after, as I've been threatening to do for a long time. But that's about it as far as channel stuff goes. Ramon, anything else that we should mention before we head out of here?
I think we're good.
All right. Well, for all of our carbon fiber sword wielding GMs and players out there, just remember to keep on winning with dice, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.